Hello, and welcome to Humor Me. I'm your host, Susanne Boitano. Today, we're out of the Newton Studios and at Boston's oldest and most famous show bar, Jacques, in Bay Village. My guest today is Mitzy Picardo, who is a comedian and has been running Sunday Fun Day open mic here for quite a while. Mitzy, how you doing?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's really great to have you on the show.
Well, welcome to Jacques.
I love this place.
Yeah. This is actually the basement. There's a stage upstairs as well.
So underground here, literally
this is the
underground.
This is where I actually have my Friday night shows. I do a third Friday of the month here. Last night we actually changed we had two featured artists, and then we had an open mic.
Oh.
And it was pretty fun.
Oh, that's great.
I'm thinking of actually changing it to that kind of a format now.
People like to get up after the show.
Yeah.
Kind of gives them some courage. What got you started in comedy? What was the genesis of your comedy story?
I was in a pool tournament upstairs. I was playing pool, and Penny Olson was running the Sunday Fun Day at that time. She actually started it here, and I was in the pool tournament on the other side of the bar, and she came over. She goes, "You guys are laughing louder over here." She goes, "You should, if you're funny, get up on stage." I'm like, "No, I'm bar funny. I'm not stage funny."
Right.
And then she tried to get me up again another week, and finally I went up and I did 5 minutes, and everybody laughed, and I was like, "Wow, that adrenaline you get when people laugh at your jokes." It's like playing sports. You just want it again. That's your feed off of it. And hence, I was a comedian.
Star was born. That's great.
Yeah.
What is your inspiration? How do you get material? What do you look for? How does it come to you?
I always looked at life as funny. You can't be a transgender woman in this world without having a sense of humor.
Yesterday, part of one of my other jobs, because I'm a comedian and I need to have you want to jobs. Sucks. One of my other jobs is Oath Pizza, and I was giving out the Bella. I was giving out 3 samples in front, and these 3 ladies walked by. I go, "Would you like to sample the Bella?" And they're like, "No, we're on a diet." And then they went next door to the Greek restaurant. Has anybody been to a Greek restaurant? I mean, is baklava dietetic now? Do you like my outfit? I didn't know if I was going to wear shorts or capris, so I wore knickers instead. It's supposed to be capris, but I'm a big girl. Don't tell anybody. So I got a new boyfriend. I know, I didn't have to pay him or anything. And he doesn't pay me, so it's not a date.
Free sample.
Because you know I He took me out to sushi the other day. Yeah, it was good. It was, took me to the gas station, got that day old really cares about me. Father's Day, right? We had Father's Day last week. Any dads in here? One dad, right? Yeah. My son, actually, he's pretty cool. He's covered for me. My ex was driving and somebody cut them off. And she's in the front and she goes, "Oh, you F you." And my son from the back seat goes, "Mom, that guy's a f***ing asshole." She goes, "Mitzy Picardo, where did you hear such language?" He goes, "Sesame Street?" Yes, that Grover has a dirty mouth. What else is new? I got yelled at the T the other day. So a lady yelled at me. I was taking the bus, and she bumped into me. She was like halfway to the door, and I was right beside the door. And I stood up to get out, and she kind of like bumped me and knocked me over. Got out the T, and she started taking the escalator up. So she got to the escalator, and she did this. She stood and waited. So under my breath, I at least I thought it was under my breath, I said, "Oh, in a rush to get nowhere fast." And she turned around, she goes, "You're not a woman! You'll never be a woman! Doesn't matter how big your tits get, you're never gonna be a woman!" And I looked at her and go, "Doesn't matter how racist you get, you're a black woman, you'll never be a Republican." I love the tea. I am the tea on the tea. If anybody told me that I could get an extra seat in the bus on the train, I had to transition 20 years. Extra seat, man. Love is a four-letter word. So is it weed. Coincidence? I think not. I was at the tea the other day smoking my bowl, and this guy walks by me and he goes, "That smells as good as you look." I put a smile on my face. I thought, like, that's so nice. And then I thought, what if my weed smells like No. So this is the last. I'm going to do one more thing. This is for Ben. Ben, you said you're from Alabama?
Hi, Alabama!
Alabama. I had a captain from Alabama, Captain Smitty. I was in the Navy. It was Captain Smitty used to come down every once in a while. I was a cook on his ship. I actually ended up becoming his chef. But he came down and he had the grits one morning. And he goes, "I want to make a southerner and I made these here grits." And everybody looked at me. He goes, "Where y'all from, seaman? Picardo?" Because I was a seaman. Now I just like you. I said, I'm from Boston, sir. And he goes, "Boston, Alabama?" I said, "No, sir, Boston, Massachusetts." He goes, "Well, how in the hell did you learn how to make grits like my mama?" I read the directions on the box, sir. He goes, "I guess my mama knew how to read, too." All right, that's my time.
You know, I grew up in an abusive house. I made fun of that growing up. I've always used comedy as a crutch. I've always, you know, tried to make people laugh. It made me feel better. But I never thought I could be a professional. I worked, when I was a teenager, I was a bouncer bartender at Playing Against Sam's at the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
And we had Bob Goldwaite, Stephen Wright, Steve Sweeney. I mean, those guys are comedians.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
that's old
I could
Boston
never
comedy.
do what they do. But yeah, so.
That's good. Were you super nervous, or did you just step right into it? What was that
I
moment?
didn't do a lot of talking. I was always quiet growing up. I mean, I talk with my friends and stuff like that, but I could never get up on a stage and talk. I remember in high school, I was a captain of one of the sport teams. I had to give a speech, and I'd taken speaker training in school, but I couldn't do it in front of a large group of people. But I looked at a mirror and I practiced his speech, and I was going to do it this time. And I got up and everybody was cheering, and I go, thank you very much," and I walked right off. I joke, I say it's when they started pumping the estrogen in me. I just got worried about my dad, and I could talk, and then I started doing speaker training. I do public speaking in Boston, and so that gave me the courage to go on stage. Because I was
Interesting.
going out telling my story and answering questions about being trans.
Oh, and that made you more
Yeah.
relaxed to
Yeah.
be.
At work, they asked me to do a segment. They were doing a manager's guide, and they said, "Could you be the T in our LGBT guide?" And I'm like, "Sure." And they, you know, flew me down to Maryland, and I did an interview on camera, and
Oh, great.
so yeah.
So you really you evolved into the role.
Yeah,
It was just
yeah.
both like, that's
I
great.
got comfortable, I think,
Yeah.
being able to talk in front of people.
Oh, that's
And I
wonderful.
think that's all what comedy is. I mean, I have such a funny family. I can just tell stories about my family and get laughs, you know, so.
That's right. What is it? Do you write things down off the top of your head? What is sort of
I
your
do,
nitty-gritty
yeah,
process?
I try to write as much as I can. I've used once I have something in my head, you know, if I don't write it down right away, I tend to forget parts of it.
Yeah.
And unless it's really good, and then just keep rehashing in your head, you go, I gotta write this one down. But there's stuff I write down, I'm like, what was I thinking? You know. So.
How do you think your own comedy has evolved since your transition? Softer, harsher, more, like, what would you say if you could say, like, oh, I used to be this, now I'm a little bit more this?
Yeah, no, I think it's always been, I've kind of had a rough type of comedy. more like Las Vegas type comedy. I could be dirty. I've always been that way, I think, either way, telling jokes. I try to be softer, like when I host and stuff, but I actually was asked to do a PG show in Baltimore, and had all this PG material, and the audience is like, "Give us some dirty jokes. We want some dirty jokes." And I did it, and I've never heard from the booker again. Like, I listened to the audience.
Gave them what they
That's
wanted, right?
But apparently the promoter didn't want that, so.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And how did you step into the role of host for the Sunday Fun Day?
So Penny had taken a couple weeks off. She asked me to co-host one week, and Lloyd Legacy to co-host another week. And when she came back, Chris, the manager at the time, she's now the bartender tonight, told her, she goes, "When you go on vacation, Mitzy is the host."
Ah.
And Penny goes, "Are you firing me?" And she's like, "Not yet." I kind of feel she felt intimidated because of that. But she ended up giving me the show 3 months later.
Oh,
She said
wonderful.
she was getting out of comedy. She was moving back to New York to work on her dance. So
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
That's great. So what was, it's different than just getting up and telling jokes. What were some of the challenges of hosting, and how did you approach that, and what is your style of hosting?
My style's changed, I think. In the beginning, I just wanted to get up and bring people up. Now I actually will do a set. And then about a year ago, I started bringing in co-hosts. I think it's good for young comedians to practice that, to host a show.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's probably out of 6 or 7 of the new shows, a lot of them started out co-hosting with me here. So
wonderful. So
that's always nice to see.
you kind of mentor
Yeah,
people,
the
right?
people, they're like, "Oh, I could do this," and so they find a bar, and they've spread comedy throughout Boston, and
Right,
throughout the suburbs.
plenty
Yeah.
plenty of room. What do you think some mistakes that hosts do? What do you say, like, what do you do well, and what have you seen not go
Bringing
well?
up favoritism.
Yeah, okay.
That's a killer, and you see it all over Boston. A lot of these bucket ones, they unfold them and they fold them back up and put that one back in. It's like, that's not a bucket.
Right.
Bucket is you grab it, grab 3 names, not your 3 friends.
For people who don't know, a bucket show is comedians come in, they put their name on a piece of paper and put it into a bucket, and then the host will pull out, and it's supposed to be what comes. But as Missy
Right.
just said, sometimes like, yeah, not this guy. I'm looking for my roommate in here, my girlfriend, something
So
like
I've always
that.
tried, up here, I've always run sign up, go up.
Yeah.
The earlier you sign up, the earlier you go up. So and that's why some of them are here an hour early,
Right.
Because they want to go up early, and they take that time to work on their material, talk to their friends, network.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
And you were saying before the show started that people get together, they network. So what have you seen in terms of that for people who don't know what goes on in an open mic other than?
Friendships. I see people like sometimes you meet a lot of young comedians, and they're very shy. They're very and it's funny to see that they're shy, but they want to get up there and do something.
It's always the
And
contrast,
that's,
right?
That's how they're breaking out, and you see them break out with the help from the other comedians, some of the younger ones. You're like, "Oh, you should go to this mic, or you should go to that one."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so there's a lot of help. So, to say it's a family.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of comedians stick up for me when somebody was a bigot in a bar.
Oh, wow.
It was at the old gutter mic, and this
Oh, yeah.
girl was like talking the whole time, and the comedian that was up, she goes, "Well, why are they laughing? He's not even funny." I'm like, "Well, if you'd be quiet and
Shut the fuck right.
listened to what he said, you might have laughed." And she goes, "I don't believe they serve your kind in this bar. You serve this in your bar. This is," and the bartender
Ow.
walked out and goes, "You're out." You don't talk to Mitzy that way. You're out. And then like the whole end of the bar, all the comedians started singing, "Na na na na, na 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 na, hey hey hey."
That's
goodbye."
great.
I make a joke about it because the whole way out she goes, "That 40-year-old wanted to fight me. That 40-year-old, like 40. I wanted to hit her. Now I want to kiss her. Thank you, calling me 40."
That's great. How do you know you love something, an incident like that?
No, that's like I say. I make a joke out of everything.
That's great. So Jocks is a super special place. It's the oldest show bar in Boston since the
is.
40s. What does it mean to you to be here and holding court?
I have a great story of how I found Jocks. I was an undercover investigator.
Oh.
When I got out of the service, I have a degree in criminal justice, and that's what I was going to do. And so I was working in an undercover investigation, and they asked me if I would go undercover in a gay bar, and I'm like, you think I could go in a bar, a gay bar? And this is well before I transitioned,
Yeah.
and I was still this, athletic Navy rah, rah guy, and I'm like, ah, fuck, they know. How do they know? They like, do they see in my head? And so they're like, no, we want you to go undercover, but we want you to dress like a woman. I'm like, I could never pull that off. They're like,
Wow.
no, we have this lady that'll do it for you. And inside my head, I'm like, oh my God, they
What is
know.
happening?
Yeah.
That's great. Did you
I-
catch the man? How did that evening
So I
go?
went, I was in the other place. I had to see the people I was supposed to watch were just so kind and nice to me that night. They like pulled me in, and then they're like, there's another bar you'll like, and they brought me here. And then I quit that job 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see anything. I did, but I knew I couldn't do that anymore.
Interesting,
yeah.
because your heart was, you just couldn't,
No,
couldn't
I
be a
couldn't,
narc,
yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
The tattletale. I never liked tattletales. Yeah.
That's great. You talk about how to be a good host. How do you be a good audience member?
Listen.
Listen.
Have an open mind. There's some people, some things rub them the wrong way.
Yeah.
I was doing a joke for a trans convention. They asked me to be a comedian there, and the girl goes, oh, I'm not really on comedy, but can you show me a tape? And one of the jokes on the tape was, I don't understand this online dating stuff. I'm like, hell, I could go to the corner and get a date. You're going to drop me off an hour later. I'm going to have 100, 200 in my pocket. It's a win-win situation. And the lady goes, that is horrendous. It's a horrible joke that insults all trans women. I'm like, that's kind of making fun of the way people look at us.
Yeah.
We're not all prostitutes. I'm not going to get in a car. That's a joke. Like, oh, I guess I don't know humor. I guess you don't.
Guess you don't.
And she didn't book me for the show.
Interesting.
But I've been running it for the last 3 years. That's at the Park Plaza. It's during the first event, which is a trans convention that hits Boston every year.
Oh, that's great.
So-
I saw that online. How'd that show go?
It went fantastic.
Yeah?
We actually were in such a big room. They had a balcony. And then I had 2 people in the balcony. I'm like, could you guys be my Muppets? just say something grumpy and grouchy.
That's good. And are you comfortable being sort of a spokesperson for the trans community?
Yeah, well, it's not a spokesperson. It's just telling your story. Because
okay.
we're all different.
Sure,
And you have
sure.
to get that across. This is my story, and I'll tell you about me and how it affects me and my feelings on it. But by no means do I represent the whole trans community, because we're so diverse, as any major group is. So
Right.
you have to just speak for yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What direction do you see your career going in? What do you like? Where do you, a show?
I just enjoy doing comedy.
Yeah.
I don't, foresee a future of going, I would love to get booked in big places, but being an older trans woman, I don't. I see younger comedians with, a thumb full of talent, and they're getting booked at these big venues. But I'm like, okay, you don't find me funny, but some people do. So
Do you think that'll
yes.
change when there's more visibility and more?
Not with the current administration.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
yeah,
How's that affecting you and people you know?
I've been already, a couple people just freely feel like they can say anything they want.
Oh,
So,
and not for the good, right?
no, not obviously. A
Yeah.
lot of times I will call them on it.
Yeah.
I was on the bus the other day, and some girl yelled out, "It's a man!" And I'm
Oy.
like, honey, if you think I am a man, you are sadly mistaken. And I said, that is a huge racist statement, and for you to be making that.
Yeah.
And her friend goes, yeah, you should shut up.
Well, at
So.
least there's that. That's it's a difficult climate. For up and coming comedians, what's some advice you have for them?
Do as many mics as you can. Just do as many mics. Just get comfortable with your material and keep doing it.
Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Just keep coming out. People are nervous or so forth. What do you suggest for them to do?
Practice.
Yeah.
Just always, the more you practice, the more comfortable you get. It's same with telling a story when you're doing public speaking. It's tell it to your pets, tell it to your friends. Make them like your bouncing board. Find somebody you can talk to.
Yeah.
But that's why you go to open mics. You find like minds, and you get to talk comedy and listen to what some other comedians say, because sometimes they'll see something you don't. So
Yeah, different perspective, right? Something that brings it out. Who are some of your influences in comedy? Did you have people that you sort of thought, oh, these people are funny, or is comedy new to
I think
you,
anybody
really?
that makes me laugh is right now, Louis Black,
Oh yeah, he's hilarious.
he just could read a newspaper and make a joke. He's that good. That's how he started, actually. He was doing Broadway shows or off Broadway, and in between, he would sit down with the newspaper and he would get, huge laughs. And so
Just riff on it.
there's just so many to name that I like. It's hard to just pull out a few. I mean, we were talking the other night, Stephen Wright, because I know Stephen Wright.
Oh.
Or I knew him when I was younger. He's so deadpan all the time. And
Yeah.
that's just his personality, but he's so good at it. Bob Goldthwait, and a lot of people are like, oh, he just screams. No, there's just such a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I was at the Ipswich Fair when he was there with his little son, and I was with my son, and he just got into the bird thing, and the first rooster, he just imitated me, like, do. And that rooster just went off, and then the bird next to it went off, and pretty soon the whole birdhouse was like just chirping and crazy.
Oh my God.
And we were just, we had to leave, we were laughing so hard.
That's so funny. What do you do when you're not doing comedy? What else goes on in your world?
I'm a food person. I've been
Yeah.
a chef for years.
Oh.
I run now food and nutrition at Mount Auburn Hospital.
Oh.
So I tell people, yeah, I sold out. I do corporate cooking now. But I do planning and writing and menus, stuff like that. I don't do much cooking
What's
anymore.
wrong with the American diet, if you had to?
Fast foods, processed foods,
Interesting.
not eating real food. Yeah.
Right? Just garbage food.
It's simple and it's so easy to cook and make. And
How did you get interested in that?
I grew up in an Italian family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have to cook.
11 years old, my uncle kicked over a grape cart. He goes, Paratone, it's still on the cards. You're tall enough. You start Monday. So.
That's good. Did your family encourage your life and your
no.
career and things? No.
No.
Was that hard to
I
deal
mean,
with?
some of my sisters have, but
Yeah.
not my parents, no.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do they do
Made
now
me a
or
better
still not?
parent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And what's a good post-show eats? What do you like to eat after a show?
I try to stay away from food. A good bourbon sounds good to me.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And what horoscope sign are you? And what are
I'm
you
a
like?
Virgo.
You're a Virgo.
I am such a typical Virgo. I'm organized, managerial. Yeah, I do it all.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Anything that you'd like to add that we haven't touched on?
I think we've touched on a lot.
Good.
Yeah,
Excellent.
it was a very fun talking with you.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was my interview with Mitzy Picardo. And come on down to Sunday Fun Day every Sunday.
Every Sunday,
at Jacques?
6 o'clock, and then every third Friday of the month, there's the Underground Comedy Room.
Wonderful. And will you have, who's slated for the next show?
I have Rick Fink as my co-host tonight, and then we just had a show last night, so I don't have my March show booked yet. But
How'd the show go on Friday?
it went well. It went fun.
That's
I mean, I
great.
haven't packed the place yet.
Right.
That's what we want to do.
Working on it.
Because I give the comedians 20% of all. So
Oh, that's generous.
If you get people in, you're going to get a percentage of the ticket.
Sure.
So that's
More audience in the summer or less? What's the sort of the comedy season?
There's different periods, like
Yeah.
springtime, fall when the kids get back to school. A lot of the older kids like to come here. They can, 'cause especially we're close to Emerson.
Yeah.
There's some summer times sometimes I'll get 40 comedians upstairs.
Oh, that's great.
And there's no rhyme or reason sometimes of why there's so many. And then the next week you get 7 or 8, Well,
Wow, just
very
ebbs and
rarely do we
flows.
get 8, but
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've got to ask, how has Boston comedy changed in the time that you started to now, or has it?
I think a lot more.
Yeah.
I think there's so many more. I mean, every time I'm doing a show on a Friday night, there's 3 free shows somewhere.
Ah.
So it's hard to get people to come to your show if they're going to just go to a free show.
Oh, yes, the old free show
Yeah.
versus the paid show on the
Exactly.
weekend, right? That's the bane of comedians. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mitzi, and
thank
we'll
you.
see you next month for another episode of Humor Me. Thanks for tuning in.